So we are going to start now with opening prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for waking us up this morning. Thank you for giving us this message so that we can know what we're supposed to believe. Thank you for giving us all that we have and for bringing us all to this meeting. Please let us understand the lesson for today, and thank you for continuously blessing us with all that we need. We love you. Thank you for first loving us. Amen.
Amen. So welcome everybody to the Youth Prophecy Group. We are the Fucuses, and today is November 8th, and this is meeting number 54.
So now it is quiz time. This is the first quiz we've had in a while. So question number 1. This first question will be to everybody to answer. Well, all the questions are for everybody, but everybody answer in any order. When did Jacob promise to stop tricking people? This is based on the previous lesson from last week. So when did Jacob promise to stop tricking people? Mary says B, so that would be Bethel. Okay, so the answer is correct. B. Jacob promised to stop tricking people at Bethel. Question 2. Why was Jacob in his time of trouble? So why did Jacob experience his time of trouble? This is also for everybody. Mary says A. Joshua says A. So everybody, Eric says A. So the answer is correct. A. Because he tricked Laban. So next question. This question is for Mary. When did the priest promise to stop tricking people? So we said that in last week when we prophetically promised to stop tricking people.
Stop being.
Yeah, stop being conservative, not stop tricking people, stop being conservative. So Mary says C. When did the priest stop being conservative? Everybody else can answer now.
You gotta look at it.
Okay. So that is correct. C. 2001 parallels Bethel. Therefore, prophetically, the priest promised to stop being conservative in 2001. Next question is for Joshua. So Joshua, why are the priests in a time of trouble? So you weren't here last week, but if you read the notes, you should know why the priests are in a time of trouble. So Joshua says E. Everybody else can answer now. Eric says E. Mary says E. Okay. So yes, that is correct. E. We are in a time of trouble right now because of our conservatism after 2001. And last question, this is for Eric. When was the death decree? When was the death decree, Eric? Eric says G. Everybody else can answer now when they believe the death decree was. Mary says G maybe, and Joshua says G. So everybody thinks it's G. And that is correct. The death decree was on May 25th, 2020. That's when George Floyd was killed, beginning the waymark of the death decree. So congratulations, everybody. Perfect score for participation and the answers of the questions. Yeah, everybody got correct answers.
So the title of today's lesson is Causes and Effects of the Waymarks. Nope. Okay. This movement has long understood waymarks, but just recently we've understood them in a different way. You see, before we thought a waymark was one event. For example, the waymark of 1989, the event was November 9th. Then in 2018, we understood that the 2019 waymark was multiple events covering the entire year of 2019 instead of just November 9th. But we never thought to apply that same concept to previous waymarks. What we have learned recently is that each waymark consists of multiple events. It's kind of like the middle star in Orion's belt, the one circled Alnilam. It looks singular, but when you look closer, it expands. Waymarks look singular, as in a straight line on a whiteboard, but they're actually not. For waymarks, the multiple events have a beginning and an end, a cause and an effect. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at the cause and effect of each waymark on the reform line of the priest.
So 1989. We usually think of 1989 as the date as the date 11/9 or November 9th. But that date was caused by something, and the cause was September 11th, 1989. September 11th was when Hungary opened its borders completely. It had been opening its borders beginning in May of that same year. They started cutting down the wire. And then on August 19th, there was an event called the Pan-European Picnic, where the government basically supported it and it was when people crossed, they said they're gonna have a celebration and picnic. They cut some of the gates so that people can walk across the border just if they wanted to. And a whole bunch of people ran across the border to Austria from Hungary because Hungary was on the edge of the Soviet Union and Austria was not in it. So you could get out the Soviet Union at Hungary's border. And then on September 11th, Hungary officially opened its border and thousands of East Germans fled the Soviet Union. They fled East Germany, went to Hungary, crossed the border to Austria, and then went to West Germany. So September 11th was one of the major events leading up to November 9th.
So November 9 to 1989 was the effect. We just looked at how Hungary was the cause, and now we're going to look at the effect. So the Iron Curtain was a sometimes physical border between the communist parts of Europe and the free parts of Europe. So you can see here, Germany, part of it, the red is the communist part, and the green, yellow, and blue is the free part. The Iron Curtain split Germany in half, but there is also a place in Germany called Berlin that was free. So as you can see, inside the red, you have a little circle in the whites. It's not an exact circle, but you have a shape. You can see a little bit of blue, green, and yellow. That part's the free, and the red part inside that white shape is the communist. So there was a part in Germany that was communist, and that free part, the communist people didn't want people going into the free area. So they surrounded that by the Berlin Wall. So the Iron Curtain was the Berlin Wall in Hungary. So this place, before 1989, East Germans that wanted to escape communism managed to get over the Berlin Wall in hot air balloons. They crawled through sewers. They drove through parts of the wall that weren't very secure, and they tried to just climb over the wall. But as you can imagine, not too many people escaped. But when Hungary opened its borders, East Germans started going down here through Germany and all the way to Hungary, which is down there in the map. The East German government started blocking people from leaving Germany and only let people cross the borders through trains. The Germans then started protesting for change. By November 9, 1989, East Germans have found ways to sneak to Hungary. The amount of East Germans leaving Germany was so great that on November 9, the government decided to open the borders, dividing East and West Germany, and to take down the Berlin Wall. The spokesman announcing it wasn't told that that this opening of the borders was supposed to happen on November 10th. So when he announced it on November 9 and people asked him when it was going to take effect, he just said immediately because nobody told him it was supposed to be the next day. So that night, East Germans flocked to the wall and they started chipping away at the wall, and eventually the wall came down. And that signified the end of the communist rule in Germany and also all over Europe. So, the fall of the Berlin Wall was a sign of communists coming to end. The cause or the beginning of the 1989 Waymark was on September 11 when Hungary opened its borders. The effect or end of the 1989 Waymark was on November 9 when the borders between East and West Germany were opened and the Berlin Wall fell. So here we have the Waymark of 1989 is actually can be seen as two events, a beginning and an end, a cause and effect. The cause was on September 11 when Hungary opened its borders, and the effect was on November 9 when Germany opened its borders and the Berlin Wall fell, which was also a border in Germany.
2001. September 11, 2001. It was the morning of September 11, 2001, business as usual. Then 19 hijackers took control of 4 commercial airliners. They chose planes that had long flights scheduled because they knew those planes would be full of fuel. At 8:46 in the morning, 5 of the 19 hijackers crashed one plane into the North Tower. Just over 15 minutes later, at 9:03, another 5 hijackers crashed a second plane into the South Tower. At 9:59, after burning for 56 minutes, the North Tower collapsed. At 10:28, the South Tower collapsed. Other buildings were damaged or destroyed that day. Nearly 3,000 people were killed and 6,000 others were injured. It was a dark day, the worst terrorist attack on American soil. The Waymark of 2001 has multiple events connected to it. The cause of those events that would take place in the few years to follow was the terrorist attack on 9/11. That's 9/11.
So September 11, 2001 was the cause, but there was also an effect. That effect was November 9th, 2001. After the September 11th attacks, the United States wanted to get the terrorists, and Osama bin Laden was hiding in Afghanistan. But the Taliban, who was the government of Afghanistan, didn't want to turn him over until they had sufficient evidence that he was actually the one behind the September 11th attacks. So on October 7th, the United States invaded Afghanistan along with a few other countries like the United Kingdom. They fought with Afghanistan they fought in Afghanistan against the Taliban with a group of people called the Northern Alliance, which were soldiers in Afghanistan that were against the Taliban. On November 9th, they took the city of Mazar-e-Sharif, which was the main city in northern Afghanistan, and it's U.S. Special Forces, Northern Alliance soldiers. They were on horses partly when they took the city. After they took the city, the Taliban lost power soon after in December, sorry. And so the Waymark of 9/11, the Waymark of 2001 was from 9/11 to November 9th, the cause and the effect. So September 11, 2001, the terrorist attack was the cause. November 9, 2001, the fall of Mazar-e-Sharif was the effect. And that's when also Islam was restrained because they restrained the Taliban government, which was Islam.
2016. November 9, 2016 was the cause. The waymark of 2016 has a cause and effect. The beginning of that waymark was on November 9. On November 8, 2016, roughly 89 million people turned out to vote for the next president. That was in combination with the 47 million people that have voted early. About 66 million of those people voted for Hillary Clinton. So here you see 65,853,516. That's about 66 million. About 63 million voted for Donald Trump. You see 62,984,825 is about 63 million. And about 6 million people voted for other third-party candidates like the Libertarian Party. Even though Trump lost the popular vote, according to early electoral counting, he had won 306 electorals, which is enough to become president. That was why on November 9, 2016, Trump was declared the winner of the election. So the event we marked for 2016 is the election, but that event was just a cause for the effect of the waymark of 2016. So, like you said in the picture, 2016 presidential debate, election, not debate. Even though Clinton won the popular vote, Trump technically won enough electorals to be the next president. So on November 9, he was declared to be the next president.
December 18, 2016. On November 9, 2016, American citizens voted for the President of the United States. That was the beginning of the 2016 waymark. But in the U.S., people don't directly vote for the president, they vote for electors. Back when the Constitutional Convention was being held, one of the questions that needed to be answered was how to elect the president. The result was the Electoral College. Every 4 years, a group of people, electors, come together. Depending on the size of the population of a state, each state has a different number of electors. For example, California has 55 electors, which is the most of any state, while Montana only has 3. This is Montana, this is California. Oh, what is it? North Dakota has 3, South Dakota has 3, Wyoming. Okay.
Alaska has 3 too.
A lot of
They
states
just don't have a
3.
lot of people in it. Say candidate A wins the most votes in California. They win the popular vote of California. Those 55 electoral votes will all be given to candidate A. That's how it works in every state besides Maine up here and Nebraska. They don't do it that way. The Electoral College is a very complicated system. Because of the Electoral College, candidate A can win the popular vote of the entire country and not become president. That's what happened in 2016. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but then on December 18, 2016, Trump officially won the Electoral College vote and thus became the president-elect. On November 9th, the people's vote caused December 18th, the Electoral College vote. So 2016, the cause is November 9th when the people voted and Trump won the election. And December 18th is the effect when the Electoral College voted and Trump officially won the election.
(2018) 2018 is the Battle of Heraclea. It was also a midterm election in the United States. So the cause of, or the beginning or the cause of the waymark of Heraclea was September 21st, 2018. Now back in May 11, 2017, Donald Trump had made an executive order 13800, which was about strengthening cybersecurity. So on September 21st, 2018, a new national cyber strategy was released. And and it was supposed to protect or give the United States a new way to deal with cyber threats and things like that. One of the things it said was that the U.S. could now attack people cyberly, attack people who they thought could hurt them. They couldn't, when before they could only just defend if people were attacking them. So that was new. And what Vladimir Putin said that he did not like the way the United States was dealing with the way the United States was acting in this time because they were using that strategy during the midterm elections, which were in November. So September 21st, the National Cyber Strategy was the cause of the Heraclea Waymark.
So December 19th, and if you have questions, as always, you can put them in the chat or say them or comments. So December 19, 2018 was the end of the 2018 Waymark. Previously, we saw that the Waymark of 2018 had a cause. That was on September 21st with the National Cyber Strategy. That's where Trump picked the fight with Putin. This fight was the Battle of Heraclea. So the effect of the Waymark of 2018 must be the end of the Battle of Heraclea if the beginning of 2018 was the beginning of Heraclea. On December 19, Trump ordered the withdrawal of 2,000 troops from Syria. In a tweet, of course, Trump announced that he was doing this because he had defeated ISIS in Syria. So as you can see, this tweet is saying we have defeated ISIS in Syria, my only reason for being there during the Trump presidency. So these troops, which you see in the background of the picture, they're being withdrawn from Syria because Trump supposedly defeated ISIS in Syria. But we know that can't be the case because there were still some 17,000 ISIS fighters in Syria. What Trump is doing is conceding Heraclea to Putin. This is the end of the Battle of Heraclea with the victory for Putin. This is a victory for Putin because Syria is his sphere of influence, and the less US forces in his sphere of influence means the more power he has over that country. That's why Putin is winning Heraclea. The next day, on December 20, 2018, Putin spoke about the decision. He said, quoting, "Overall, I agree with the President of the United States. I already said that we achieved significant progress in the fight against terrorism in that territory and delivered major strikes on ISIS in Syria." So, the Waymark of 2018 is Heraclea, and it ended on December 19 when Trump withdrew troops from Syria. That was the effect of September 21st. So this is the Waymark of 2018 on our reform line. It began on September 21 with the National Cyber Strategy. That was the beginning of Heraclea. The Waymark ended on December 19 when Trump ordered the withdrawal of troops from Syria. That was the end of the Battle of Heraclea, and Putin won that battle.
2019. On September 11th, 2019, hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to Ukraine were released. This was not an isolated event. It was the beginning of one story and the end of another. On April 12, 2019, Volodymyr Zelensky was elected president of Ukraine and he was inaugurated on May 20th. A couple of months later, on July 3rd, Donald Trump withheld the aid that was already scheduled to be given to Ukraine. The hold was made public on July 18th. Trump withheld the aid to intimidate the new president. On July 25th, the phone call took place. It was between Zelensky and Trump. Among other things, Trump brought up the issue with the Bidens. He wanted Zelensky to investigate Hunter Biden's involvement with Burisma, an Ukrainian oil company. He alleged corruption. That was a quid pro quo, which is a favor for a favor. So Trump would release the aid if and only if Zelensky would investigate the Bidens for him. On August 12th, a complaint was made by the whistleblower. The whistleblower brought the phone call to the forefront, saying it was a quid pro quo. That complaint eventually led to the impeachment of Donald Trump. On September 9th, 3 House committees began to investigate whether Trump pressured Ukraine to dig up dirt on his political rival to help his own re-election. Trump cracked under all the pressure, and 2 days later, on September 11th, he released the aid to Ukraine. Zelensky never had to open an investigation into the Bidens. On September 11th was the end of the aid holdup issue, but it was only the cause of other problems.
So the effect of September 11, 2019 was November 9th, 2019. We know November 9th has to do with, what was I say? We get the date November 9th from the revolutions. And revolutions are internal. So we know that November 9th is internal. Another phrase for internal is the Western Front. So we know that November 9th has to do with the United States and its allies. The Western Front are internal. But we don't know yet exactly what happened on November 9th. So for now it's blank. But whatever it we know that November 9th was the effect of September 11, 2001. And it had to do with, and it was part of the Western Front. So, 2019, the cause of I guess the cause of the Waymark of 2019 was September 11th, 2019. That was when Trump released the aid to Ukraine. November 9th, 2019 is the effect of that, but we don't know yet what it is. But we know that this Waymark, September 11th to November 9th, is internal.
May 25th, 2020 was the beginning of the 2020 Waymark. We have currently passed the Waymark of Concord in this dispensation. We've seen that Waymarks have a cause and effect that bookend them. The Waymark of Concord in 2020 is no different. On May 25 this year, the counter-revolution began with the death of George Floyd. We mark May 25 as the Waymark of Concord, but since we are looking at Waymarks as causes and effects, May 25 is only the cause or beginning of Concord. May 25 was the cause which began the Waymark of Concord in 2020. So the cause of 2020 Concord Waymark was May 25 when George Floyd was killed.
September 29, 2020 was the end of a series of events that this movement would come to call Concord, the Waymark of 2020. It began on May 25, 2020 when George Perry Floyd was killed. That was the cause of all that was to follow. Then there were the deaths of John Robert Lewis on July 17th, Chadwick Aaron Boseman on August 28th, Ruth Bader Ginsburg on September 28th, and Helen Maxine Reddy on September 29, 2020. Helen Reddy was an American-Australian singer. In 1972, she released the song I Am Woman. That song became the theme song of the second wave of feminism. But that's not all that happened on September 29, 2020. The first presidential debate was on that day. That debate was the beginning of a series of debates between Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. and Donald J. Trump. The first debate was an absolute mess. Trump didn't know how to follow the rules, and he continuously spoke over Joe Biden. Not much was accomplished by that debate, except now everyone saw just how rude Trump can be and how he won't condemn white supremacy. In the debate, he said, when they asked him to condemn white supremacy, quote, "Proud Boys, stand back and stand by," end quote. As Trump refused to condemn the Proud Boys, which is a white supremacist group, he sided with them, essentially telling them to be prepared. The Republican Party went into concord with white supremacist groups. The other side also united to protest. As this movement knows, the political external events around the world, but especially in the United States, are important, and Concord was part of that. September 29th ended the Waymark of Concord. It was the effect of May 25th. The 2020 Waymark Concord, the cause was May 25th when George Floyd was killed, and the effect was September 29th when the two sides come into concord or agreement.
So now it is time for the summary. So the first Waymark we looked at was 1989. The call, we normally think about the date November 9th, but that was the effect. The cause was September 11th when Hungary opened its borders. The effect, November 9th when East Germany opened its borders, and more well known, the Berlin Wall fell. 2001 was what we looked at next. We normally focus on 9/11 or September 11th. That was the cause, and that was the terrorist attack from Al Qaeda against the United States. The effect was November 9th when Mazar-e-Sharif fell. That was a major city in northern Afghanistan, and that was the effect of the terrorist attack because the U.S. invaded Afghanistan because of the terrorist attack. That's also when Islam was restrained. Next, we looked at 2016. A point that we can see when Islam is restrained, we normally would say the terrorist group was restrained, but that's not what happened on November 9th. The government of Afghanistan, the Taliban, was restrained, and we saw that also in 1840. In 1840, on August 11th, the terrorist group was not restrained. Egypt was restrained, and that was a government, an Islamic government.
Egypt?
Yeah, Egypt. I'm pretty sure Egypt, not Turkey, but I think so. Either way, Turkey or Egypt, they're both Islamic governments. So 2016, November 9th was the cause. That was when Trump won the election, as we would say. We would normally point to November 9th when Trump won the election, but that was when it was actually seen that he would win. The vote was actually November 8th, but they didn't finish counting enough votes until November 9th. But that's the cause. The effect was December 18th when the electoral college voted and Trump officially became president-elect, or the next president of the United States.
The 45th one term.
2018. That was the Waymark affair. The cause was September 21st, and that's when the new cyber strategy was released. That was the first cyber strategy in a very long time, and that's when the United States government, or probably the government, was given permission to not just defend but also attack against people who could possibly hurt them online. December 19th was the effect, and that's the end of Heraclea when Trump loses and he withdraws all troops from, he said he's going to withdraw all the troops from Syria. And that was a victory for Putin because Putin wants Syria to himself and he wants the United States out of it. So that was the effect of September 21st when Trump started to mess with Putin. Then we looked at 2019, the cause, September 11, 2019. That's when Trump released aid to Ukraine because the House of Representatives started to investigate him. Also, no, that doesn't matter. Well, I think September 9th, we forgot to mention, that's when John Bolton resigned over this whole issue. John Bolton. Wait, I was done.
Oh.
So that was the cause, Trump releasing aid to Ukraine. The effect, November 9th, 2019. We don't know yet, but we know that it is in the context of the impeachment issues in Ukraine, and it is internal or part of the Western Front. Lastly, we looked at Concord or Waymark in 2020. May 25th, 2020, that's when George Floyd was killed. That was the cause that began protests against racism and inequality.
Just this second.
As you can see, we have a question mark under September 29th, which is not correct. Just never went
The-
back and changed it on accident. We start off with nice question marks.
No. Maybe on these,
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. The effect was September 29th, 2020. We also looked at between May 25th and September 29th, including September 29th.
Mhm.
4 people died. 2 about racism, 2 about sexism. The last one being Helen Reddy on September 29th, 2019. Yeah, 2020. She died on September 29th, 2020. That was the effect, and that was also the first presidential debate where you can see the right or those for inequality coming into concord. Trump basically endorsing white supremacy in the form of the Proud Boys, which is a white supremacist group. And also with her death, you can see the protesters coming into unity over the protesting the issues of racism and sexism, which she was a part of, a symbol of feminism, which is against sexism. So each side is coming into concord. Now it's the effect.
So does anybody have any questions or comments about this lesson or about the message in general? Well, I think we should remember that, as you probably all know, that yesterday it was announced that Joe Biden is the next president of the United States. Well, president-elect. And that just proves, what'd you say?
Nothing.
That just proves that the methodology that Future for America uses is incorrect, and how we have to be headed more towards parable teaching, because parable teaching is what tells us the future. In reality, it's not Future for America's methodology, which was literal to literal. They took literal far richer and Daniel to go literal far richer Trump. But we have to use parable teaching, and parable teaching clearly wouldn't tell us that Trump was the last president. So that's all I want to say.
And how as speaking of a nation is the legislative and judicial, not necessarily the executive. So
Even if you have a supposedly good president in office, it really wouldn't stop the speaking of the legislative and judicial. See, like
the Supreme Court is conservative.
It's like
and-
6-3, 6-3, and now in the elections on just these recent elections, Republicans won even more seats in the Senate. I mean, in the House.
Yeah.
They won more seats in the House, even though it's still Democratic. When the Senate is still Republican.
And
Therefore-
they control most of the.
Yeah.
Doesn't
So
seem like the House does anything.
yeah. So since the Senate is more powerful than the House, the Republicans have the Senate and the courts. So it doesn't matter who's in the press. I mean, it does matter, but not necessarily to what's the word?
The same extent.
Yeah, to the same extent. It doesn't matter who's in the presidential office.
But anybody's better than Donald. Any Democrat is better than Donald Trump. So
Eric asks, why did the Soviet just trap the Germans in the Berlin Wall? I never actually thought of it. I think the people in the West are free to travel in and out. At least that's what I would suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just basically so that people from East Germany and East Berlin could not get into the West. Now, there was gates, so I know that West Germans could get out. People from West Berlin could get out. But yes, it is kind of different. The wall was actually around West Germany. But it was.
It was just to keep East Germany people from getting into West Germany where it was free. Because the Soviet Union wanted to keep as many people trapped in communism as possible. Any other questions?
another comment. The Senate votes in January where there are 2 Democrats running against 2 Republicans, I guess. So if they win, then the Senate will be 50-50. And
Then the Senate will not be Republican.
If the Senate is 50-50, then the Democrats will probably be.
They win.
Yeah.
Win.
but then the Democrats might compromise, and then the Republicans will have their way if some moderate maybe compromises.
Wasn't that Chuck Schumer said, once we get the majority in the Senate, don't tell us what to do?
Well,
So
yeah, but they
they're-
won't be the
yeah.
majority, so.
Yeah, they will, really. Because Harris will be the deciding vote, and she's gonna go with the Democrats. So then they would have the majority if the Senate is 50-50.
Yeah,
So
if they
yeah.
win
Yeah.
in January. I
But-
don't exactly know how that works out, but if they do win, it won't be. The Senate will not be Republican.
Yeah, but doesn't the Senate have to be Republicans? It's the legislative and judicial power, so that basically means the Democrats can't win.
Or
Yeah,
there's some bad Democrats.
Is before
That's
2022.
true.
Oh, yeah, if the Sun lost before the next election where Republicans can take some of the Democratic seats. Wait, the next election is 2022?
Midterm.
I don't know.
Oh, midterm. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions about the message?
Or comments.
Oh, yes, or comments about the message or, the lesson.
If not, then thank you everybody for coming. If you would like notes, if you have questions, if you have lesson suggestions, if you want recordings or updates, you can contact us at youthprophecygroup@gmail.com.
So let's have closing prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for being with us this week. Thank you for bringing us to this new week. Please continue to protect us. Thank you for giving us this message to let us know what's happening around us and so that we can be prepared. Thank you for calling us to be part of the 144,000. Thank you for making us priests. Please help us to prepare for our job next year, 2021, of teaching others, teaching the Levites and afterwards the Nethinims. Please continue to be with us. Help us to learn more of your message. In Jesus' name, amen.
So thank you everybody for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.